The pattern emerges. The story opens in the Grand Council chamber of the Galactic Federation, where Ambassador Kren of the Vortani Empire stands before a massive holographic display. The display shows a disturbing pattern that has emerged over the past century. Every species that has challenged the small blue planet called Earth has suffered complete military defeat. Kren, a tall reptilian being with silver scales, gestures to the data floating before him. "Honored delegates," he begins, his voice carrying across the vast chamber filled with representatives from dozens of alien civilizations. "We must address the elephant in the room, or as the humans might say. The first recorded defeat belongs to the Crimson Fleet, a warrior race known for their brutal efficiency. They had arrived at Earth's solar system 50 years ago with a force of 10,000 warships, expecting to crush the primitive world within hours. Instead, they found themselves outmaneuvered by human tactics that seemed to defy all military logic. The humans used their own planet as a weapon, hiding ships behind moons using gravity wells as slingshots, and employing kamikaze attacks that left the Crimson Fleet commanders speechless. Next came the Silicon Collective, machine beings who prided themselves on perfect calculations and flawless strategy. They analyzed human military patterns for months before launching their assault. Yet somehow the humans adapted faster than any organic species should have been capable of. Every algorithm the Silicon Collective deployed was countered within hours. Their perfect logic was met with human chaos that made no mathematical sense, but worked nonetheless. The hive mind of Centaurus followed, bringing their greatest advantage: perfect coordination among billions of warrior drones. No species had ever successfully fought a hive mind because individual thoughts and actions were too predictable. But humans, Kren explains to the assembled delegates, fought as individuals while somehow maintaining group cohesion. They were unpredictable yet unified, chaotic yet coordinated. Kren pulls up the most recent defeat: the Phantom Lords, masters of stealth and psychological warfare. They specialized in breaking enemy morale before battles even began, using fear as their primary weapon. They had never met a species that wasn't terrified of their ghostly ships and mind-bending technologies. Humans, however, seemed to thrive on fear. The more desperate their situation became, the more dangerous they grew. Each defeat follows the same pattern, Kren continues, his clawed finger tracing through the holographic data. Superior technology meets human ingenuity. Overwhelming numbers encounter human determination. Perfect strategy confronts human adaptability. And in every case, the humans emerge victorious not through superior firepower, but through something we cannot quantify. The chamber falls silent as delegates from various species contemplate this information. The tall grays, known for their analytical minds, whisper among themselves. The crystalline beings from Arcturus pulse with different colors indicating intense thought processes. Even the energy beings from the void spaces seem to flicker with concern. Ambassador Yala from the Trade Federation speaks up, her blue skin shimmering with worry. "What are you suggesting, Kren? That we avoid Earth entirely? That we treat these newcomers as equals despite their obvious technological inferiority?" Kren's eyes narrow. "I'm suggesting that we're missing something fundamental about human nature. Every defeated species believed they understood warfare. They studied human history, analyzed their tactics, prepared for their known strategies. Yet they all failed to account for something deeper." He displays a new set of data: human conflicts throughout their own history, world wars, civil wars, revolutions, and rebellions. "Look at this pattern," Kren says. "Humans have been fighting, continuously for thousands of years, not just against external threats but against each other. They have refined the art of warfare against opponents who think exactly like them. The implications hang heavy in the chamber. A species that had been forged in constant conflict, that had developed strategies against enemies who shared their own psychology, would be uniquely equipped to face alien minds that thought differently." Kren concludes his presentation with a chilling observation. "Every species that has challenged Earth assumed that humans would fight like them. The Crimson Fleet expected honor-based combat. The Silicon Collective anticipated logical responses. The hive mind predicted collective behavior. The Phantom Lords counted on fear reactions. All of them were wrong. As the delegates process this information, a new message arrives at the chamber. The Razor Syndicate, the galaxy's most feared mercenary organization, has just announced their intention to test human defenses. They believe their combination of multiple species tactics and unlimited resources will succeed where others have failed. The chamber erupts in concerned murmurs. The Razor Syndicate has never been defeated. If the pattern holds true, they are about to discover why every species that challenges Earth ends in defeat. The mercenary Gambit commander Rex of the Razor Syndicate stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Iron Fang, studying the tactical displays that surrounded him. Unlike the previous challengers, Rex had learned from their failures. His fleet wasn't composed of a single species with predictable tactics. It was a carefully assembled collection of the galaxy's most dangerous warriors, each bringing their unique advantages to the fight. The Razor Syndicate had spent months analyzing every human conflict, every victory, every apparent weakness. Rex himself was a veteran of 100 campaigns, a battle-scarred warrior whose cybernetic implants had replaced most of his original biology. He had defeated the pride of the Andorian Navy, crushed the rebellion on Titan VII, and broken the siege of the Crystal Worlds. Earth would be just another conquest. "Report," Rex commanded, his artificial voice echoing through the bridge. "Captain." Nova, a sleek feline humanoid from the hunter world of Pram, stepped forward. "Sir, our reconnaissance shows Earth's defenses are minimal. A few orbital stations, some automated defense grids, and their small fleet of interplanetary vessels. Nothing that should concern us." Rex nodded, but his tactical mind remained cautious. "What about their ground forces?" "Scattered across their continents," replied Major Thorne, a heavily armored insectoid whose species had evolved specifically for warfare. "No unified command structure. Multiple languages, different governments, competing interests. They appear to be as divided as their history suggests." This information should have been encouraging, but Rex felt a nagging doubt. He pulled up the files on previous defeats once more. Each attacking force had possessed similar intelligence, yet all had failed spectacularly. "Sir," interrupted Lieutenant Spark, an energy being whose form crackled with electric potential, "we're receiving a transmission from Earth." "Put it through," Rex ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing a simple room with a single human sitting behind a plain desk. The human appeared unremarkable, middle-aged, wearing what humans called a business suit with gray hair and tired eyes. Nothing about his appearance suggested military training or tactical expertise. "Greetings," the human said calmly. "I am Director James of Earth's Diplomatic Corps. We are aware of your fleet's approach and your stated intentions." Rex leaned forward in his command chair. "Then you know why we're here. Surrender now and your species will be relocated to suitable worlds. Resist and face the same fate as those who challenged us before." James smiled, an expression that somehow made Rex's enhanced sensors register a spike in threat assessment. "We've been expecting you, Commander Rex. We know about your victories, your tactics, your reputation. We also know about the Crimson Fleet, the Silicon Collective, the Hive Mind, and the Phantom Lords." "Then you know resistance is futile," Rex replied. "Actually," James said, leaning back in his chair, "we know something else entirely. We know why they all failed, and we know why you will too." Rex's confidence wavered slightly. "Enlighten me." James stood up and walked to a window behind his desk. Through it, Rex could see a bustling cityscape with humans going about their daily lives, completely oblivious to the massive threat hanging over their world. "Every species that has attacked us made the same fundamental error," James continued. "They assumed warfare was about military might, superior technology, or perfect coordination. It is," Rex stated firmly. "No, Commander." James turned back to face the screen. "Warfare is about survival, and no species in this galaxy has survived what we have survived." Rex accessed his database, pulling up human history files. Wars, famines, plagues, natural disasters, extinction events, an endless catalog of survival against impossible odds. James continued, "You see, every other species in the galaxy evolved in relatively stable environments. You developed technology to overcome your challenges, formed alliances to share resources, created order to maintain peace. You became civilized." "And humans didn't?" Rex asked, though he was beginning to understand. "Humans became something else, entirely," James replied. "We became survivors. Every extinction event that should have destroyed us only made us more adaptable. Every war that should have broken us only taught us new ways to win. Every catastrophe that should have ended our species only showed us new methods of endurance." Rex studied his tactical displays again, but now the numbers seemed different. Earth's minimal defenses weren't a sign of weakness. They were a sign of confidence. "You want to know why every species that challenges Earth ends in defeat?" James asked. "It's because you're not fighting a military. You're not battling a government. You're not confronting a civilization." James smiled again, and this time Rex's threat sensors screamed warnings. "You're fighting humanity itself, and humanity has never, ever given up." The transmission ended, leaving Rex staring at a blank screen, suddenly uncertain about the battle to come. The human response. Across Earth, the response to the approaching threat was unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. Within hours of Director James's transmission, the planet transformed from a collection of separate nations into a unified war machine that operated on principles no alien tactician could comprehend. In the underground command center beneath Geneva, General Stone coordinated with leaders across the globe. The room buzzed with activity as humans worked with an intensity that bordered on manic. Unlike the cold, calculated preparations of other species, human war planning resembled controlled chaos. "Status report," Stone commanded, his weathered face reflecting decades of military experience. "All defense networks are online," reported Colonel Park from the Asian sector. "Our manufacturing facilities have converted to military production. We're producing weapons, ships, and ammunition at rates that exceed our original projections by 300%. "How is that possible?" asked Captain Morris from the European Command. Park grinned, a uniquely human expression that combined determination with a touch of madness. "Simple. Every human on Earth knows what's at stake. They're working 20-hour shifts without being ordered to. Factories that normally compete are sharing resources. Scientists from rival nations are collaborating on weapon designs. It's like the entire species has decided to evolve overnight." Meanwhile, in orbit around Earth, something unprecedented was happening. The modest human fleet was being joined by vessels that shouldn't have existed. Converted cargo ships mounted with military-grade weapons, civilian spacecraft retrofitted with armor plating. Even old museum pieces from humanity's early space exploration had been restored and armed. Captain Brooks, commanding the defense platform Guardian 1, watched in amazement as her tactical display showed the incoming additions to their fleet. "Control, are you seeing this? We have everything from luxury yachts to mining vessels requesting combat assignments." "Confirmed, Guardian 1, came the reply from Earth Control. "We also have volunteer pilots incoming from every inhabited world in the system. Civilians with no military training are teaching themselves combat maneuvers using historical battle simulations." The approaching Razor Syndicate fleet detected this activity through their long-range sensors, and Commander Rex found himself facing something his tactical computers couldn't analyze. The enemy was growing stronger not through reinforcements from allied species, but through the spontaneous mobilization of their entire civilization. "Sir," reported Captain Nova, her enhanced feline senses picking up emotional resonances from the planet below, "the humans are exhibiting behavior patterns we've never encountered. Their stress hormones should be through the roof, but instead, they're showing signs of excitement." Rex studied the readings. It was true. Humanity was facing the prospect of extinction, yet their biological signs indicated they were thriving under pressure. "Run a comparison analysis with our previous battles." The results were disturbing. Every other species the Razor Syndicate had conquered showed predictable fear responses as defeat became inevitable. Morale collapsed, coordination failed, and surrender became preferable to annihilation. Humans, however, seemed to grow more dangerous as their situation became more desperate. On Earth's surface, the transformation continued. In factories across the globe, workers who had never built military equipment were producing weapons with innovative designs that incorporated techniques from human history. Ancient siege warfare principles were being combined with advanced technology. Guerrilla tactics from various Earth conflicts were being adapted for three-dimensional space combat. Dr. Lisa Wang, a civilian scientist who had been researching renewable energy just days before, now found herself leading a team developing new defensive systems. "We don't need to match their technology," she explained to her mixed team of former competitors and colleagues. "We need to make their technology irrelevant." Her team had discovered that human creativity, born from millennia of solving problems, with limited resources, could produce solutions that more advanced species had never considered. Why build stronger shields when you could build weapons that ignored shields entirely? Why create faster ships when you could make the enemy's speed work against them? The psychological warfare began even before the first shots were fired. Human communication networks flooded the Razor Syndicate's frequencies with transmissions that defied analysis. Music that seemed designed to inspire humans while confusing alien listeners. Battle cries in dozens of languages that conveyed meanings beyond mere words. Stories of human victories against impossible odds that served as both historical record and promise of things to come. Commander Rex realized he was facing something unprecedented. A species that became more unified and more dangerous when threatened, with extinction. Every previous battle had followed predictable patterns: initial resistance, gradual weakening, eventual surrender. Humans appeared to operate on the opposite principle: initial resistance, escalating determination, absolute refusal to surrender. As the Razor Syndicate fleet entered Earth's solar system, Rex made a decision that would have been unthinkable for any of his previous campaigns. He activated every weapon system, deployed every tactical advantage, and prepared for a battle unlike any he had ever fought. Because he was beginning to understand why every species that challenged Earth ended in defeat. The battle unfolds. Battle began in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, where the first elements of the Razor Syndicate fleet encountered what appeared to be a small group of human patrol vessels. Commander Rex expected a brief skirmish before the main engagement near Earth, but what happened next would be studied by military historians for generations. The human ships didn't retreat or attempt to delay the advancing fleet. Instead, they attacked immediately, using tactics that violated every principle of space combat. Captain Brooks, now commanding a hastily assembled wing of converted civilian vessels, led her ships directly into the path of the enemy's superior firepower. "All units remember the plan," Brooks transmitted to her mixed squadron of former cargo haulers, tourist ships, and research vessels. "We're not trying to win this fight. We're trying to teach them something." The human ships spread out in seemingly random patterns, forcing the Razor Syndicate forces to divide their attention across multiple targets. But as the alien weapons opened fire, the true strategy became apparent. Every human vessel that was destroyed took careful note of which weapons destroyed it, how long the weapons took to recharge, and what defensive measures proved most effective. Then they transmitted that data to Earth. Within minutes, human manufacturing centers were producing countermeasures for weapons they had never seen before, based on combat data gathered by ships whose crews had died to obtain it. The concept was incomprehensible to the Razor Syndicate, a species that willingly sacrificed themselves not for victory, but for information. Commander Rex watched his tactical displays in growing confusion. "Captain Nova, explain these readings. Our weapons are functioning normally, but their effectiveness is diminishing with each engagement." Nova's enhanced senses detected something troubling in the quantum fluctuations around the human vessels. "Sir, they're adapting. Not just their tactics. Their actual technology is evolving in real time. It's as if their entire civilization is learning from every shot we fire." The battle moved closer to Earth, and the true scope of human preparation became evident. The planet wasn't defended by a traditional military formation. Instead, it was surrounded by layers of seemingly random debris that revealed themselves to be camouflaged weapons platforms when the Razor Syndicate fleet came within range. But, more disturbing than the hidden weapons was the behavior of the human defenders. Ships that should have been fleeing incoming fire instead moved closer to the enemy. Vessels that were clearly outgunned challenged superior opponents to single combat. Most unsettling of all, human communications remained calm, almost cheerful, as their forces took heavy casualties. Guardian control to all units came a transmission from Earth's primary defense coordinator. Remember, we've been through worse than this. Our ancestors survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, and asteroid impacts. These guys are just another Tuesday. The casual confidence in that transmission sent ripples of unease through the Razor Syndicate fleet. Species that had survived countless battles were disturbed by an enemy that treated the fight for their world's survival as a routine challenge. Major Thorne, monitoring ground-based installations, reported increasing alarm to Commander Rex. "Sir, we're detecting massive movement on the planet's surface. It appears they're evacuating their civilians to underground shelters." "Standard defensive procedure," Rex replied, but something nagged at him. "No, sir," Thorne continued. "The readings suggest they're not just hiding their civilians, they're organizing them. Every human on the planet appears to be receiving military training and equipment. They're turning their entire population into combatants." Rex realized he was facing a species with no concept of non-combatants. Every human, from children to elders, was being prepared to fight. Not because they were forced to, but because they chose to. The idea of surrender wasn't just rejected, it seemed to be entirely absent from human psychology. The space battle intensified as more human reinforcements arrived, not from hidden fleets or allied worlds, but from Earth itself. Ships launched from the planet's surface with crews that had been civilians hours before. Mining vessels from the outer system arrived with weapons cobbled together from industrial equipment. Even scientific research stations had been converted into mobile weapons platforms. Lieutenant Spark, analyzing energy signatures, made a disturbing discovery. "Commander, the human vessels are operating beyond their design specifications. Their reactors are running at power levels that should cause immediate failure, but somehow they're maintaining structural integrity." Rex studied the data and realized the truth. Human technology wasn't more advanced. It was more desperate. They were pushing every system beyond safe limits because they understood that safety was a luxury they couldn't afford. Their ships were flying apart, but they kept fighting until the moment of complete destruction. As the Razor Syndicate fleet pressed closer to Earth, Rex began to understand why every previous invasion had failed. They weren't fighting a military force with rules of engagement and acceptable loss ratios. They were fighting a species that had decided extinction was preferable to defeat. The revelation. The final phase of the battle took place in Earth's atmosphere itself, as Commander Rex led his remaining forces in a desperate attempt to break human resistance through direct assault on their homeworld. What he discovered there would forever change the galaxy's understanding of what made humanity truly dangerous. As Razor Syndicate dropships penetrated Earth's defensive grid, Rex expected to find a demoralized population seeking shelter from the inevitable conquest. Instead, his forces encountered something that defied every model of civilized behavior, an entire species that had weaponized its own desperation. In the ruins of what had once been New York City, Major Thorne led a squadron of elite warriors against human ground forces. His soldiers, enhanced with the best military technology from across the galaxy, should have swept aside the primitive defenders with ease. Instead, they found themselves fighting humans who used their own destroyed city as a weapon. "Command, we need immediate support," Thorne transmitted, his voice strained with disbelief. "The humans they're not following any tactical doctrine. They're using building collapse as offensive weapons. They're turning every piece of debris into ammunition. They're making the destruction of their own city work in their favor." Rex monitored similar reports from battlefields across the globe. In Tokyo, human defenders had flooded their own subway systems to create underground lake barriers. In London, civilians were disassembling historic buildings to create improvised weapons. In Cairo, families were converting their homes into fortified positions while children ran ammunition to the front lines. But the most disturbing reports came from Captain Nova, who had landed near what humans called the Pentagon. "Sir," she transmitted, "I've breached their primary command center. You need to see this." The video feed showed a room filled with humans, working at computer terminals, coordinating defensive efforts across the planet. But these weren't military officers. They were ordinary citizens. Teachers, engineers, doctors, students, and retirees had transformed themselves into strategic commanders in a matter of hours. An elderly human woman noticed Nova's presence and smiled. "Welcome to Earth," she said calmly as explosions shook the building around them. "I'm Mrs. Davis. I used to teach 5th grade, but today I'm coordinating orbital defense patterns for the North American sector." Nova's enhanced senses detected no fear, no desperation, only a quiet determination that was more terrifying than any battle rage. "How is this possible?" Nova asked. Mrs. Davis continued typing commands while speaking. "Sweetie, you're making the same mistake everyone else made. You think this is about military capability or advanced technology, but you're fighting the wrong war." "What do you mean?" Mrs. Davis turned from her terminal and Nova saw something in the human's eyes that made her predatory instincts scream warnings. "You're trying to conquer Earth, but Earth has never been the real threat." Nova's confusion was shared by Commander Rex as he monitored the conversation from orbit. His fleet was winning the tactical battle. Human ships were being destroyed, their defensive positions were falling, their casualties were mounting beyond sustainable levels. Yet somehow human resistance was growing stronger. Mrs. Davis continued, "Every species that attacked us thought they were fighting for control of a planet. They studied our military, analyzed our technology, prepared for our weapons. But they missed the real threat entirely." "Which is what?" Nova demanded. Mrs. Davis smiled again, and this time Nova understood why the human expression was so unsettling. The real threat is what happens when you show humanity that survival is impossible through normal means. Across the battlefield, Rex began to understand. Human forces weren't just fighting to win. They were fighting to demonstrate something to the rest of their species. Every act of resistance, every impossible victory, every moment of courage under hopeless circumstances was being broadcast across human communication networks. The message was clear. If these ordinary humans could stand against impossible odds, then so could everyone else. Mrs. Davis stood up as alarms blared throughout the command center. "You see, Commander Rex," she said, knowing he was monitoring the transmission, "you made the same mistake as the Crimson Fleet, the Silicon Collective, the Hive Mind, and the Phantom Lords. You assumed that if you defeated our military, you would defeat humanity." Rex watched his tactical displays as the truth became undeniable. Every human victory, no matter how small, was inspiring more resistance. Every act of heroism was creating more heroes. Every moment of defiance was multiplying across the entire species. "But our military isn't separate from our people," Mrs. Davis concluded as the building shook with incoming fire. "Our military is our people, and our people have never learned how to give up." As the command center collapsed around her, Mrs. Davis continued coordinating defensive efforts, her last transmission carrying a message that would echo across the galaxy. "Every species that challenges Earth ends in defeat because you're not fighting humans. You're fighting humanity itself, and humanity is undefeatable." Rex finally understood why every invasion of Earth had failed, but by then, it was too late for his own forces to avoid the same fate.